Welcome to the Independent Brokers Podcast. Your host, Joseph Gozlan, interviews independent real estate brokers from around the country, asking about all the things we all want to know: recruiting, commission breakdowns, lead generation, technology tools, and more. And now to the show.
Welcome, everybody, to the Independent Broker Podcast. Today we have CeCe with us from Missouri. CeCe, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Awesome. So like we do with every show, we let our guests introduce themselves to the audience. Give us the 60 seconds version of who CeCe is, how did you get to real estate, and how does your world look like today?
So I'm CeCe Ellis. I was born and raised right here in St. Louis, Missouri, and I've been an agent now for 7 years. And then started a real estate brokerage about almost 2 years ago now. And what drives me is I love the obstacles that come with real estate and having to help people. And I have a team now, and I love helping my team help other people. So the situations that usually people are like, we can't handle, those are the ones that we welcome.
Awesome. Always welcoming a challenge. I love that.
Yeah.
You said you have a team now and you're on brokerage. How does it look like? How many teams? How many agents? Tell us.
So right now there's a total of 8 of us. There was 10, but we had to move some people in a different direction. So there's 8 of us now.
Okay, awesome. And is there any team structure or they're all independent agents? How do you guys operate?
So everybody is an independent agent because it just keeps things from getting muddied, but they do on their own create teams, if you will, meaning even though just say you and Sam are not necessarily a team on paper, but you and Sam might say, hey, we're going to link up together because I'll be on vacation these days, you'll be on vacation that day. So we're going to help each other's clients, or I'll help this person get in, or I can't do this or that, or let them. So they create a team without it having to be a team. So it's still your client. And then whatever they decide to give the other person, that's between them. And it just works great that way.
That makes total sense. Let's just dive right into it. What kind of real estate do you guys do?
So we are primarily residential, but we will do condos, villas, townhomes, anything that pertains to residential. Our specialty outside of the traditional buying and selling that we've been very successful in is helping people with rentals, rent to owns, and people that have housing vouchers. So those are usually the 3 things that most real estate companies just don't touch. And those are the things that we love because, again, we love helping people. And those are the people that need the most help versus a person that's got $1 million in the bank. Yeah, we help them, but it's not the same because they got everything that they need. They don't need the down payment assistance or whatever to get them in a home.
Awesome. Okay, so you have the community service aspect to your business. I love that. We also try to be as service oriented as possible. It's not just serving a certain kind of clientele, is wherever we can add value, we will. How does your commission structure look like with your agents?
Each agent is on a different commission structure based on their experience and et cetera. But like a brand spanking new agent, instead of charging them mentoring fees or just all these different things that I've heard people creatively do, just for their first couple deals, we do a 50-50 split. And that just makes it to where pretty much, because usually it's myself or the person that's helping them. Let's be honest, we're the one that's doing all the work, but they brought the client, so they still make their money. And nobody's ever cried about it because I'm like, you can join a program and pay $300-400 a month, and it may take you a year to sell, or we can train you for a year. And then when you get that sale, we get our money back, if you will, with that 50-50 split.
Okay, so just the first 2 deals are 50-50, and then it goes
Just the
to
first few.
a deal with whatever, based on their experience you have agreed on when you hire them.
Yes, so there is a structure where it jumps up continuously based on them, whether it's time. For some people, it just makes sense to jump up based on the time they've been in the business. For others, it makes sense based on how many deals they're doing or plan to do. So we do structure it for each person. Okay, if you're a person that's a full-time agent, you're going to hit it faster. So it makes sense to do based on deals. But if you're working a full-time job and you're doing this part-time, then it makes sense for you to do it based on time. But if the deals hit before the time, then that's fine too. So they like it.
Oh, that's very flexible, and that's great. Gives the people what they need when they need it. I love that. You're the first one that has that kind of like mixed structure. I love to hear about these things and how people get creative around that. Do you do any recruiting? Are you looking to actively expand? Are you happy with your 8 to 10 kind of size? What are your goals?
So my goals are I would love to at some point, but it's not like top priority to have about a good 20 producing agents. So if it happens this year, next year, it's a relaxed thing because I don't want anything to be like a forced thing. But right now we've got a good team of people together. And why I keep saying the team is because everybody's like a close knit. It's more like a family. So that's why I don't want like hundreds of brokerage people in the brokerage, because I love that family friendly feel, like we all know what everybody's got going on. Or you might get a call that says, hey, my kids got this going on, everybody cheer us on type situation. Or it's been times where, hey, I'm in the hospital sick, can you guys just check in on my clients? Other times it's just, I'm just having a bad day, can you just please pray for me? So it's
Mhm.
like when you have a smaller group, it's just easier for us to work together. We don't have friction. It's just not a problem, and you get to know people better. So those times where you're like, so wait a minute, why did Joseph say it like that? I know his personality. He didn't mean it like that. He's going through this. But if there's hundreds of people and somebody says something, you're like, dang, you because you don't know their personality to know what they meant by what they said. So I
Yeah.
don't actively recruit. Everybody that's come to me has actually sought me out, because when I first opened the brokerage, it was really just to be an independent agent. And yeah, everybody said, oh, we were waiting on you to open one. I'm like, really? I didn't even know I was going to open one. But that's literally what they all said. And so they either went and got a license, or they were thinking about getting a license and they were going through the process, but they hadn't chosen a brokerage. So literally everybody has organically come to me.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. So it's an interesting question. Do you prefer the brand new agent that just got their license, or do you prefer the one that has more experience?
So this is probably going to sound weird, but I prefer the person in the middle if I had a choice. Right now, what I've attracted is brand new agents, and that's fine. But it's a lot of work because you're literally not only teaching them how to be an agent, but most people you're having to teach them about business in general and customer service and just basic. You can't roll your eyes at people. You have to smile even when they're getting on your nerve, just basic stuff. So when you get that mid grade person that maybe has done one, two, maybe three deals, they've got a chance to see some of the obstacles that happen. So it's easier to take them and run with them, because now I can go back and correct. So maybe that wasn't the best idea when you did this behind closed doors. Of course, we don't reprimand anybody in front of anybody, because I'll go to bat for my agents out front. And then when we're in our private meeting, I'm like, girl, you were tripping. So it's just one of those, it just works that way.
Yeah. No, do you find that the new ones, the one that just come out of the real estate school, have unrealistic expectations?
So the agents that I have, I feel like they don't, because when we sat down and had a conversation, I always tell them my own story. I'm like, listen, one thing I can tell you is when you start a business, life will start lifing to challenge you to see how serious you are about that business. So I'm like, I'm telling you now, before you get your first deal, you're going to have some obstacles. Just be prepared for it. So then when life starts lifing, like I had an agent who ended up having to have an emergency surgery. So she was already mentally prepared because I'm very real with them. And I'm like, people don't just come out the woodworks. Your family, your friends, they're going to probably buy with other people because they need to see if you know what you're doing. So I set a realistic expectation. So when they do get a deal, they're like, oh my God, I'm so excited. And I always tell them, focus on one a quarter. If you do one a quarter, that gives you about maybe 3 to 4 in the year realistically. But if you hit all four at one time, then you just reset your quarter if you need to, and start over. But realistically, when you're focusing on one person every 3 to 4 months ish, it's not such a big deal. But
Mhm.
anybody in between, then they're like so excited. So
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's really good advice, and it's really good that you keep it real with them, because yeah, that's what I meant. They come to those interviews sometimes and they're like, I saw an HGTV, you show it to three people and you sell $1 million house. Is yeah, no, that's not how life works. And like I said, we have other things going on in life, and you have to be ready for it, and you have to accommodate that. Yeah, I get it. How about leads? Do you guys do any lead generation in the office? Do you give leads to your agents? How does that work in your world?
So in my world, I always taught them the best lead is an organic lead that is attracted to you. So I encourage them, like we do videos. Like I gave each one of them when I sat down with them and I said, okay, this is what I feel like is your strength. And if I'm wrong, you do whatever you do. So just an example, I have one that coins herself the vegan realtor. So I'm like, that's a whole world out there. So instead of focusing on getting a lead, focusing on making videos and making people that are vegan realize that it's okay to be who they are. And in the midst of it, like while you're cooking, like she does cooking or she'll do grocery shopping, you sprinkle your real estate in there. So then they're like, oh, I want a new kitchen to cook my new food in. So then she's able to get that lead that way. Or, hey, I know someone that's, so that's what I teach them. But we did invest in a company that gave leads because one of the agents was like, no, we want to try it. And they got to see why I personally don't like it because they had all just junk leads, crazy people. It was a lot. And I'm like, okay. So I paid out thousands of dollars for this stuff. What did you guys get out of it? We got one person who actually purchased the property out of the whole. We got a ton of leads, but I passed them all out to them so they could see it for themselves. And they're like, yeah, we're going to go back to the way that we were doing it because they were organically getting people. So I am a producing agent, but that's not necessarily my goal, is to stay a producing agent. So I do try to give them stuff that I think would be good experience because I'm still going to be there to help them with it. So if I get rentals and or just maybe a client that's a buyer that's a little more needy than the average person, then I'm like, okay, I'm going to give this client to you, but I'm going to be in the background teaching you how to deal with them. So then sometimes I'll be on mute. I know this is crazy, but I'll be on mute and they're like, I'm in a situation. I'm like, three-way me in. They'll mute the phone and then I'll text them, say this, say that. So they look like they're great agents, which they are. They're just learning. So that's our situation that has actually made them more money than trying to pay for stuff. So we do like the vendor events because most agents don't think about that. So we go to the community events and volunteer our time and help, but we set up a table and we talk about homeownership. So even if it's not a now, those people will remember us later typically and pass our info out.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've had mixed results with leads that are generated by other systems. We've had a lot of guests that on the show that swears up and down by this, and this is where most of their business come in. And we have a lot of guests, and personally, I'm the same. I don't believe in those internet leads, not because I think they're not working. I just think that the amount of work required to convert those leads is more than what most agent will ever do.
Yes.
On average, you need to have 10 touch points with an internet leads before they convert into a potential client, right?
Yes.
It's 7 leads before they even respond, and then you got to continue 3 more for them to actually start engaging. And most agents give up after the third attempt of contact.
Yes.
I've had those conversations with my agents as well, and I told them, look, it's like I don't mind spending the money, but I need you to sign this paper right now that says you're willing to commit to those 10 touch points and you're going to be following up on time every time with all these leads. And then they realized, yeah, maybe I'll convert 2 out of 100, but I'm going to waste my time on 98 of them.
Yeah.
And I can do different things that can generate better, more higher quality, better chances of conversion leads. And I'm also a fan of what you just said of I one of the people I follow in the residential world is Tom Ferry, is one of the
Yeah.
real estate gurus, and he says, be the mayor of your town, right? You don't have to have 100% of your content focused on real estate. It can be
Yes.
other things, as long as, like you said, sprinkle your real estate in between them, and then you reach out and you touch a certain audience. And in your example was the vegan community. The vegan community is a great niche because they're very passionate about their thing, and they're very passionate about their own community. So that's a very interesting and a very good niche to target. And I'm sure she's doing great with that. So yeah, I'm a big fan of the both things you just said. So thank you
Awesome.
for that. What about technology? And by the way, I'm asking the same questions everybody.
Sure.
So this way, when you watch 3 or 4 episodes in a row, you get to see everybody's opinion about the same subjects, right?
Yes.
So what about technology? Do you guys use CRM? Do you guys use transaction management? What do you guys have in the technology side of things?
So, in our technology side of things, we get phone calls. I'm sure you do too, from every single company in America. But the ones that we've settled on, there's a local company here in St. Louis that a lot of people use, and it's called Ruse. I love them to death because it's very inexpensive and your website does so much stuff. It'll probably really take you a year to really delve into all the things you can do, because sometimes I'll hit a wrong button and I'm like, oh, I didn't know I could do this or that, because there's just so much. We use it for our CRM. We use it for document storage. If you have a deal or just something that you want to store in there, you can store documents in there. For our actual accounting software and what do you call it, like our transaction management system, we use paperless pipeline, which I love. And then we also use QuickBooks inside of the Ruse system. Another thing that I love about it is, say you are having an event, right? The average person, you get an event Evite from Eventbrite or whoever the different companies are. You have your own version in your website that each agent can create in their own website, so they can customize it. It does a lot of stuff. So that's our favorite thing, because then when you say say I'm gonna have a birthday party for you, well, guess where everybody's gonna RSVP to? On that site. And I got questions in there like food allergies, whatever. You can customize it, and then it creates a separate little thing. So now I can send thank you specifically to this group, or I can mark it to each group without having to group you. It's already there, but you can be in multiple groups. For a broker, I love it because I can send text messages to my agents. Like, they're already stored in there, so I can send a message. There's a built-in back office that like if you have a buyer need or a new listing or all that stuff, it's all built in there, so we can see it. I can post announcements. It does a lot of stuff. So if they use it, it's amazing. Or even like you think about the spot of, usually when you got all these different websites, people are like, okay, crap, where do I go for this, or where do I go for that, or whatever. And then usually, like when you're with the big brokerage, they spend thousands of dollars building something that connects you here and connects you there and connects you. There's a little section on there that I can connect all my links to everything, and they just boop, boop, boop in the same amount of money that I would be paying. So anyway, I can't even tell you what all it does, because every time I get in there, I'm like, dang, it does this or it does that. It's just something different every day.
That's
So
great. And how's it called? Because I don't think I've heard
it's
about it.
called Ruse. I'll have to send it to you because they have multiple names, but Ruse is the one that you see across the bottom.
Okay.
And it's amazing, and it's not expensive. Even when you pay your monthly bill, because of the system that they use, you don't even pay like a fee. Like normally people tack on extra fees. We do use in our area Forms or Us. So that's what I use to stay current on the documents. But what I typically do is, because Forms or Us, or like Zip Forms or Long Wolf, there's all those different ones, but they're so difficult. If it's because we have a Missouri form and then we have a St. Louis/St. Charles County form. So you got to figure out which form is what. Inside of that system, I have a lady that will update it for me. So they can't fill it out in there, but they can see what it looks like. There's a checklist, and then there's one that's filled out that tells them how to fill it out. So therefore, when they call me, it's usually, okay, I read through all this, but there's one thing, versus how do you fill the whole form out? So I like that. And then our brokerage, we use DocuSign only because I like the fact that they do have a portion that you can sign up for as an agent, and it's responsible for keeping all those forms compliant for you.
Mhm.
And then for the agents, I use DigiSigner. So for me, as the broker, or I guess when I sign stuff, I like to have two systems in case one malfunctions. We got another one, so we use both.
Okay. That sounds like you got a whole technology stack that
Yeah.
you got together. Great. Any bad experience with any piece of technology or lead generation or something that you'd say I did beware of that one?
Yes, the bad experience. And normally I'm not one to tell
Mhm.
companies because I don't want my opinion to be somebody else's. But after talking to a few people, I found out, like, we did realtor.com and we just did not have a good experience. And I felt bamboozled because, of course, when they sell it to you, they're selling it to you. So I took part of it on the chin because I'm like, you go with your gut. And so when I kept asking them, if this is such a great area, why is this area open? And the
Mhm.
guy was like, there was an agent there for this amount of time, which we have no way to verify that stuff. I'm like, okay. And he talked a good game, but internally I was like, I don't know. But anyway, long version short, we did it for the commitment of the contract. And then afterwards, I told the lady, because they called me back, of course, to try to see why I canceled. And I said, it's really sad because in the end, we only got one deal out of it, which it was nice that we got the one, but it was like the day before we canceled the service, which was crazy. And so she said, that's so weird that they even sold you the zip code, because she said, I'm looking back at the history. She didn't call it the worst, but she was like, this is the lowest producing or something that she said. And it's even lower than our lowest areas. And she's, that is just so strange. And I'm like, yeah, but you didn't offer me anything because so if you guys knew that this was not a good area, although it has expensive homes, because it ranged from 150 to 500,000, which in our area that's pretty decent. But you knew that the leads were not good because you just told me that history has started repeating itself.
Yeah. Yeah, we've heard similar things about Realtor.com and Zillow. Those are very specific. So there's certain areas where Realtor.com absolutely rules everything,
Yeah.
and there's certain areas where Zillow controls other things, and there's areas
Hmm.
where neither one of them works.
Yeah.
So, okay. So when you look at your career in real estate and you look back, what did you wish you knew before you decided to go and become an independent broker?
I knew that I was going to have agents that were going to find me, honestly, because when I first started, I didn't buy technology because I didn't need it. Like, we have our forms provided by the state. So that's what I just needed immediately. And then I had a platform to sign. So in the moment, that's all I needed, because I was like, okay, until I figure all these systems out, I can just store everything in a Gmail cloud in it, because that's all you need is a cloud to store it. And then I knew my license was up to date and all this stuff. So I was good. But then it was like, oh wait, there's another agent. So now I need a agent contract, or oh wait, I guess I got to provide you with this, or oh crap, now I definitely need error and omissions insurance, and just all this stuff that I didn't know. And so when I called our state, I'm like, okay, there has to be something that's like, where's the blueprint? Then I called the National Association, and they're like, we got a thing that's like a 400-page PDF that you can get. It's outdated because it doesn't have this and that in there for a couple $100. And I'm like, lady, I don't have time to read a 400-page thing. There's no video. So just knowing that there was really nothing to help you set up a brokerage from the start
Yeah.
was what I wish I would have known, because I would have maybe did things differently. I would have maybe, even though I didn't plan on going on my own, but I would have had a plan maybe a few years back and just slowly been thinking, okay, if I was on my own, and just mentally training myself to be on my own and not dependent on somebody else's systems. So for my agents, the big thing, like, it's always about being an independent agent. So sometimes I'm like, I know I get on your nerves, but I make you think for yourself. And then if you just really can't get it, then I help you, because I'm like, I got spoiled having somebody to help me. And then when I got kicked out the nest, if you will, or I decided to grow up and just go on my own, I'm like, crap, I don't know anything, because I know somebody else's systems. I don't know how this stuff works outside of me being a good negotiator. So.
Yeah. No, that's a very good perspective. It's you don't know what you don't know. And then what did make you leave and become an independent broker?
So what made me leave is, without going into a long story, but I was with a big company and we just were not seeing eye to eye. It was a new broker came in, and I loved my old broker. I would have followed him, but they lied to us and told us he basically moved to a whole nother state. Come to find out he did, and it was just a mess. So I tried to stick it out, and I was on this plan, and I had worked my butt off to get to this 90% commission. And so to get to the 90% commission, you had to bring in 98,000 something dollars in commission to get to this level. So the way that the previous broker explained it to me is, you have from this time to earn it, and then it circulates for the whole next year. So I couldn't find my contract. Like, it was a mess, because once he shut his DocuSign off, everything was locked in there, and I never downloaded the PDF, right? So then this new agent, or the new broker, says, that's not true. That's not true. I don't know where you got that from. And I got my next check and it said 60%. And I was like, what? So then he said, we can do you a favor and we can put it up to 70% because you've been with us for so long, but you'll still have your 6% franchise fee. So I'm like, I busted my butt to get to 90%. And then you're going to offer me what, 64%? I don't think so. And I'm nowhere near a new agent, but it was just the attitude behind it. So then when I expressed to them, it was like, oh, if you do decide to leave, you're not going to be good on your own. So you need to stay with us because we have a big name and blah, 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 blah. And it was just like, this is what you think of me? I'm just a number, which we know that, but it's worse when somebody tells you that. So anyway, and then I realized later what kept me motivated is I said, you guys must think I'm good because they called me back later to offer me, oh, we've seen you as a broker. We're following you. Your agents are doing well. We'd love for you to come back to us and we'll offer you like 10 grand, but you got to sign a 3-year commitment. And I'm like, you could have did all this back then. Hindsight's 2020, but it just showed me that I'm more valuable than I realized because you're a humongous company nationwide. Why do you care about little old me now?
Yeah, despite the national brand, just like you realized it's the local team that makes or break a branch and makes
Mm-hmm.
or break a region. And yeah, they made a mistake and then they try to correct it later on. Okay, so that's a good experience. And you know what? We learn from these things, right? And we grow from these things.
Yes.
If everything was going great, you would still be stuck somewhere else doing work for somebody else, giving away some of your commission instead of keeping all your commission and getting some of your agents, but and providing value to your agents. Just to be conscious of everybody's time, one question we like to ask everybody is if you went back in time to when you just started real estate, what would you tell yourself? What advice would you give yourself?
The advice that I would give myself is I would have said to learn to be more independent. That is like the one thing that I stress to my agents. And I show them so much appreciation for every little milestone. First time you wrote a contract, I give them a bling bracelet that says like realtor. Like I would have done a better job of like if I'd known how to be more independent, I would have celebrated myself a little more versus usually we get down. So let's just say you finally get your first client and then the inspection period goes terrible and now you got to fill a mutual release. That is like a bummer, but I would have been able to say to myself, hey girl, it's all good. You did a good job. You got a client. Let it be a lesson learned. Somebody put lipstick on a pig. It's not your fault, but instead, I would internalize, did I do something wrong? Maybe I should have looked at it different. Then I'm running to the person that was there to help me instead of being like self-talk because that's how I live my life. So I'm an independent person in everything in the world. But then when I get to real estate, I turned into a toddler. I'm like, oh my God, where's the broker? Where's the broker? So I would just say be confident and be comfortable in what you've learned and just walk through the door. It's okay. Now, unless you do something that caused you to get sued, that's a different story. But the little small things, it's okay. Your clients come to you because they trust you, they love you. Just don't overly internalize everything. It's all good.
Yeah, that's a great advice. Yeah, we definitely. It's a business that has a lot of hiccups, and it's a business that have a lot of things that go sideways because everybody thinks we're in the business of buildings, but we're actually in the business of people,
Yes.
and people will always find a way to surprise you. And 9 times out of 10, it's not for the better. So that's just part of the business. You got to realize that you got to roll with the punches. Right?
Yes.
And I don't think of any better idiom to think of as just roll with the punches.
Yes. Agreed.
Awesome. See, I really want to thank you for coming on the show. If our audience wants to reach out, they want to ask you to help them find something to buy or sell or rent, how can they find you? And we'll make sure to put everything in the show notes.
So the easiest way is to go to our website. It's Ellis Luxury Homes with an S, ellisluxuryhomes.com. And you can choose any agent. There's a spot that says pick your agent. Hopefully you pick me, but that's okay if not. And then you can call or text us anytime, 314-486-4522. You can text it 24 hours a day. It's not a problem.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the show, CeCe. I appreciate it. Awesome. And for you, the audience, if you want to see more episodes like this, find us on YouTube, on Stitcher, on Apple Podcasts, on Google Podcasts, everywhere. And if you can do us a favor, leave us a review, 1 star, 5 star, whatever you feel we earned. And we'll see you on the next one.
That was awesome. I learned something new. I hope you did too. And if you want to learn more from our expert, please subscribe to the channel and share with your friends.